In 2023, Lauren Mitchell, a 34-year-old graphic designer from Chicago, packed up her apartment and moved to Cape Coral, Florida, dreaming of coastal views, lower taxes, and endless sunshine. At first, it felt like paradise. Then came the skyrocketing home insurance bill, the daily traffic gridlock, and a summer humidity so intense it fogged up her glasses inside her car. Lauren's story is far from rare. Every year, thousands move to Florida chasing warm weather, retirement dreams, or even a fresh start. But behind the palm trees and pastel sunsets lies a different reality. One where hurricanes threaten entire counties and housing prices can rival major metros. In this video, we're diving into the real Florida. Not the one from travel brochures, but the one locals live every day. From unpredictable weather to unexpected costs, these are 10 honest realities you should know before making the move to the Sunshine State. Let's get into it. At number 10, we have local culture, quirks, and political dynamics. Because moving to Florida isn't just about surviving hurricanes. It's about diving headfirst into one of the most unique cultural landscapes in the country. When Marcus and his wife packed up their SUV in Ohio and headed for Florida, they thought they were trading snow shovels for sunsets and a simple beachy life. What they didn't expect was that driving just a few hours in Florida would feel like crossing into entirely different countries. One weekend, Marcus found himself eating conch fritters in a Haitian restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, chatting in broken Spanish at a Cuban cafe in Hialeah, and then later walking into a bait shop in the Panhandle where the accent was so thick he wondered if he'd accidentally driven into Alabama. Florida isn't just one culture, it's a wild mosaic. South Florida is dominated by vibrant Caribbean and Latin American communities. In places like Miami, you're more likely to hear salsa than country music, and café con leche is a daily ritual. Up north in the Panhandle or the inland areas, it's a different story. Southern traditions reign, barbecue is king, and football loyalties run deep. A longtime resident once joked that the further north you go in Florida, the more southern it gets. And he wasn't kidding at all. Then there's the Florida man phenomenon, which outsiders assume is just internet satire, until you've lived there long enough to realize it's oddly accurate. The headlines aren't made up. Florida man really did try to steal a jet ski during a police chase. Another one attempted to barbecue a raccoon to get rid of evil spirits. While some of this has to do with Florida's sunshine laws, which make arrest records public and highly searchable, locals have come to wear the weirdness like a badge of honor. As one Reddit user put it, it's not that Floridians are crazier, it's just that Florida tells on itself. Politics in Florida are no less colorful too. Once a major swing state, it has leaned increasingly conservative in recent years. With Governor DeSantis and the state legislature pushing bold culture war policies, like banning the term climate change in state law. But don't let that fool you into thinking it's politically uniform. Urban areas like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa still lean blue, making Florida a patchwork of bumper stickers that might read, "Let's go Brandon" in one town and "Coexist" in the next. Despite all the contradictions, many residents say the state has a charm that keeps them hooked. Where else can you eat Jamaican jerk chicken, watch manatees from a kayak, dodge iguanas falling from trees in winter, and tailgate for a college football rivalry all in the same weekend? It's loud, it's weird, it's unpredictable. But for many, that's exactly the appeal. At number 9, we have natural disaster risks. Because in Florida, the weather isn't just a topic of small talk. It's a full-time character in your life story. In 2022, a woman in Dunedin walked outside to get her mail and watched as her neighbor's house disappeared into the earth. Not metaphorically. A sinkhole had swallowed the front half of it like a house-flavored donut. For Floridians, this wasn't breaking news. It was just Wednesday. First, let's talk about hurricanes. Florida isn't just on the hurricane map. It is the hurricane map. It gets more hurricanes than any other state in the U.S. Entire generations of residents can recite the difference between a Category 1 and a Category 5 faster than their own zip code. Every seasoned local knows the drill. Fill up the gas tank, stockpile batteries, and pray your roof stays put. And while the coasts take the brunt of the hits, even places like Orlando that are miles inland have seen winds strong enough to send trampolines into orbit. Newcomers are often shocked to learn that hurricane insurance is separate from flood insurance, and neither is cheap. But it's not just the big-name storms you have to watch out for. Summer afternoons come with a free side of daily thunderstorms so intense they make you wonder if Zeus is settling old scores. Florida is the lightning capital of the U.S., racking up over 1 million strikes each year. You'll quickly learn to schedule outdoor activities before 3 p.m. because by 4, the skies open up and your weather app starts weeping. And sometimes, just to keep things interesting, a random tornado drops by. They're usually brief, but still. Tornadoes and hurricanes in the same state? That's just greedy. Flooding is another Florida classic. In Miami, it doesn't even take a storm anymore. Just a high tide and a grumpy cloud. Locals have coined the term sunny day flooding, where streets flood even when the skies are perfectly blue. It's like the ocean's just trying to reclaim a little real estate. Insurance companies aren't amused, and neither are homeowners watching fish swim past their driveways. Then there are sinkholes. Central Florida especially is known for its Swiss cheese geology, with vast underground limestone deposits that can suddenly collapse, taking driveways, backyards, and the occasional minivan with them. While they're not an everyday occurrence, they happen often enough that some people casually ask for sinkhole insurance the way others ask about parking permits. And just when you think you've accounted for every possible danger, Florida's wildlife reminds you it's not finished. Alligators show up in pools, ponds, and once famously at the front door of a Wendy's. Snakes? Yes, including the venomous kind. Jellyfish at the beach? Definitely. And somewhere out in the Everglades, a 15-foot python is probably swallowing a deer whole. You learn to check your shoes, scan the water, and assume any bush might hiss at you. Despite all this, people stay and even love it. There's something about surviving your first hurricane, dodging lightning bolts on your way to Publix, and learning how to coax an alligator off your porch that makes you feel like you've earned your place. Just maybe keep your insurance agent on speed dial. At number 8, we have education, because eventually someone's going to have to explain all those Florida Man headlines to the next generation. Now, Florida's education system is kind of like its weather. It's wildly unpredictable depending on where you are. You've got some school districts like St. Johns County or Sarasota that are academic overachievers. Think straight A students who also volunteer on weekends. Then there are others that, well, let's just say they're still figuring out which way is north on a map. It's a big state, okay? There are about 2.8 million K-12 students here, and they're spread across everything from traditional public schools to charter schools, magnet programs, and even private schools using state vouchers. Florida is basically the choose-your-own-adventure book of school systems. And just like in those books, sometimes your kid ends up with a great education and other times they get metaphorically eaten by a dragon. That's why parents moving to Florida turn into full-blown detectives when house hunting. Forget granite countertops. What's the school zone? Is it A-rated? How many AP classes? Is the PTA terrifying? People have left dream homes just because the school nearby was one bad inspection away from being a gas station. But here's the good news. Overall, Florida students tend to do okay. On national standardized tests, they often score at or above the average, which is saying a lot considering the chaos they study through. Hurricanes, lizards on the playground, and the occasional school lockdown due to a rogue peacock. The graduation rate is actually among the highest in the nation, which is impressive. The teachers, though, God bless them, are doing miracles on medium pay and large class sizes. Florida is not exactly winning the Best State for Teachers award, unless that award comes with no benefits and a side hustle requirement. Now, if you're thinking long-term and hoping your kid becomes a gator, a Seminole, or just someone who can afford rent one day, Florida's higher education scene is actually a major win. The University of Florida in Gainesville is ranked 7th in the nation among public universities, and Florida State isn't far behind. USF and FIU are also climbing up the rankings, and here's the best part: in-state tuition is pretty reasonable, around $6,000 to $7,000 a year, which in 2025 is roughly the cost of a parking spot in San Francisco. Florida also has a solid community college system, great for getting a 2-year degree, technical training, or just figuring out what you want to do with your life without going into soul-crushing debt. A lot of students start there and transfer to 4-year universities, saving money and avoiding massive lecture halls with 500 students and one extremely exhausted professor. And let's not forget the true cornerstone of Florida education culture, college football. If you've never been to a game day in Gainesville or Tallahassee, buckle up. The school spirit here is no joke. People paint their faces, name their dogs after quarterbacks, and throw tailgates bigger than some weddings. It's part sports, part religion, part competitive yelling. Of course, it's not all touchdowns and test scores. Florida has had its fair share of education controversies, textbook battles, debates over civic standards, and political tug-of-wars over what kids should be learning in school. Depending on who you ask, this is either a defense of family values or a descent into ideological chaos. Either way, it's a good idea for newcomers to read up on the local school board before buying a house next to it. Still, if you do your homework, pun very much intended, Florida can offer some solid educational opportunities. Whether your kid is bound for a top university or just wants to survive high school without heat stroke, there's a path here. Just maybe double check that the path doesn't lead to a sinkhole. And sliding in at number 7, we've got real estate and housing affordability, also known as the moment when your Florida dream turns into a Zillow-induced panic attack. Let's start with the basics. Florida's housing market is hot. Not summer day on the Gulf Coast hot. It's more like I blinked and the median home price hit $387,000 hot. That's right. According to 2025 estimates, buying a house in Florida now costs more than an entire small town in the Midwest. Want a cute little waterfront condo where you can sip pina coladas while dodging hurricane alerts? That'll be $500,000 minimum, cash or 30-year existential dread. This explosion in prices isn't random. Florida's population growth has been one of the fastest in the country, mostly because people keep fleeing cold winters, high taxes, and in-laws. So now you've got everyone from New Yorkers to Californians fighting over the same 3-bedroom in Tampa that used to be $200,000 but now has 6 offers, all above asking, and one of them in Dogecoin. And while the coast and tourist hotspots are basically Florida's version of Beverly Hills, rural parts of the state and areas in the northern panhandle are still relatively affordable. But the moment someone posts a viral TikTok saying, "This little town is a hidden gem," the real estate prices go poof! Suddenly it's $400,000 to live near an alligator swamp with character. Now, if buying sounds a little intense, you might think, no problem, I'll just rent. Oh, sweet summer child. Renting in Florida is a whole other reality show. Want a modern 1-bedroom apartment in a trendy Tampa neighborhood? That'll be $1,800 to $2,500 a month. In Miami, a studio smaller than your car trunk can run you more than $2,500. That's if you can even find a place. After hurricanes took out a chunk of the rental inventory in 2023, rents didn't just rise. They shot up like they were trying to escape the atmosphere. And then there's the Wild West of Florida rental scams. You'll see a listing for a 2-bed, 2-bath, great neighborhood, only $1,200. Sounds amazing, right? Except the landlord ghosts you after taking the deposit. And congratulations. Now you're out $1,000 and still sleeping in your car. Longtime residents know the game. One even warned that if you want to enjoy clubs and restaurants, you'll need a six-figure income or an extremely generous roommate. Now, let's say you do buy a home. First of all, congratulations. Second of all, good luck. Because owning a home in Florida comes with extra costs that don't show up in other states. Insurance is a big one. Thanks to hurricanes, sinkholes, and the occasional iguana short-circuiting your power lines, homeowners now pay a median of $4,000 a year just in insurance. Then there's hurricane-proofing shutters, reinforced roofs, and impact windows. Basically, your house needs to be ready to fight a Category 4 storm like it's training for a boxing match. Property taxes are also a thing. Florida does cap how much your property tax can rise each year on your primary home, which is nice if you plan to stay put. But if you're a first-time buyer coming in hot, you're paying that fresh, full market rate. Even if you survive the home price, the rent, and the insurance, you've still got infrastructure to deal with. New neighborhoods are popping up like mushrooms after a rainstorm, but the roads? Not so much. Commuting can feel like a punishment for wanting a yard. Some suburbs are growing so fast that by the time the city builds a traffic light, 3 new subdivisions have already opened nearby. Rush hour traffic? It's not so much a rush as a slow descent into madness. On the flip side, many of these new communities do come with perks like pools, parks, fitness centers, and maybe a coffee shop where everyone pretends they're not sweating through their shirt. Some even offer tax incentives to sweeten the deal. But here's the kicker. Neighborhoods in Florida vary wildly. One block might be family-friendly paradise, the next might be under construction for the next 5 years. So before you sign anything, check the local zoning plans and maybe ask the neighbors if that empty lot next door is about to become a gas station or a nightclub. Bottom line, whether you're buying, renting, or just Florida window shopping from your couch in Ohio, this state's housing market is a full contact sport. Bring a budget. Bring a helmet, and maybe bring your mom, because you might need a co-signer. Coming in hot at number 6, we've got local industries and job opportunities, also known as will you be working at a beach bar, a rocket lab, or both. Now, when people think of working in Florida, their minds usually go straight to one word, which is tourism. And that makes sense because Florida is basically America's front yard for fun. Between Disney World, Universal Studios, and cruise ships the size of small nations, the state has created a hospitality machine that never sleeps. Over 100 million people visit Florida every year, and nearly all of them require someone to hand them a map, flip their bed sheets, or serve them a mojito shaped like Mickey Mouse. Theme parks alone support hundreds of thousands of jobs. So, if your dream is to dress up like a cartoon mouse in 95-degree heat while kids scream at you for not being the real Elsa, congratulations, you found your calling. But hey, hospitality isn't just roller coasters and churros. There are also tons of gigs in hotels, restaurants, cruise lines, and anything with the word resort in it. But Florida's job scene isn't just about sunscreen and selfies. The state also ranks number 1 in the U.S. for fresh market bell peppers and tomatoes. It's basically a vegetable empire with a tan. And if you're into citrus, Florida is the second largest producer of oranges and grapefruits in the country. That morning glass of OJ probably came from a Florida farm. That is, unless a hurricane turned the grove into a swimming pool. Down in South Florida, specifically the bougie land of Brickell in Miami, you'll find a booming finance sector focused on Latin America. It's like Wall Street if Wall Street wore Gucci loafers and had a yacht parked out back. Miami's also trying to brand itself as the next tech hub, attracting startups and venture capital, though some folks say it's just Silicon Valley with better parking and more salsa music. And then there's aerospace and defense. That's right. While some Floridians are making frozen margaritas, others are literally launching rockets into space. Cape Canaveral, NASA, SpaceX, Lockheed Martin. Big-time operations all based in Florida. So yeah, one person's job is dressing up as a talking dog at Disney. And the guy next door is landing a booster rocket on a floating platform in the Atlantic. Florida contains multitudes. Healthcare and education are also major employers. Between hospitals, university medical centers, and retirement communities that need everything from nurses to physical therapists, the demand is strong, especially in cities like Tampa, Jacksonville, and Gainesville, where the scrubs outnumber the flip-flops. But let's talk real talk. The job market reality isn't all rocket ships and citrus bonuses. Yes, Florida has a low unemployment rate, hovering around 3 to 4% in 2024, but that stat doesn't tell you what people are actually making. A lot of the jobs being created are in lower wage sectors. That means plenty of openings, just not always ones that let you afford rent in Miami and have enough left over for gas and groceries. One resident put it bluntly, jobs are scarce, they try to pay you the cheapest they can. So if you're moving here expecting Silicon Valley salaries with beach views, pump the brakes. Sure, there are opportunities in tech, finance, aerospace, and medicine, but they're usually in the bigger metro areas, and they're competitive. You'll need the right skills, experience, and maybe a LinkedIn profile that doesn't include your senior photo from 2007. So here's the bottom line. Florida does offer a wide variety of industries, from retail to real estate, tourism to tech, agriculture to aerospace. It's all here. But if you're not in a specialized field, be prepared for wages that might leave you choosing between avocado toast or air conditioning. Still, if you've got hustle, a flexible mindset, and maybe a little sunscreen, you can carve out your spot in Florida's ever-sunny, occasionally wild job market. Or at least find 3 part-time gigs that add up to 1 full-time paycheck. Sliding into number 5 on our Florida reality checklist is sustainability and environmental regulations. Or, as Florida likes to call it, let's not talk about the climate while we build condos on a swamp. So here's the deal. When it comes to climate policy, Florida's official stance lately has been climate, what now? In 2024, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law removing most references to climate change from state statutes. That's right. Florida, the state with more coastline than most countries, is now pretending climate change is like Voldemort. You don't say the name and maybe the hurricanes will forget to show up. Instead of pushing renewable energy, the state's new focus is on energy security. Translation: more pipelines, more natural gas, and less worrying about those annoying rising sea levels. Which is wild because Florida has so much sunshine, you could probably toast a sandwich just by leaving it outside for 5 minutes. Yet there's no state mandate pushing solar energy. It's like owning a Ferrari and choosing to walk everywhere because you just don't like red. Now let's talk development versus conservation. If you're wondering whether Florida has figured out how to grow without turning every swamp into a strip mall, the answer is sort of, but mostly no. Florida has a long history of bulldozing nature in the name of progress. Wetlands, pave it, mangroves, fill it in. That beautiful marsh where birds nest? Oh, perfect. That'll be the new golf course. This rapid development has a cost. Flood risk has gone up, ecosystems have gone down, and don't even get people started on toxic algae blooms. We're talking red tide in the Gulf, blue-green sludge in Lake Okeechobee, and a general smell that says, "Welcome to paradise." Please don't breathe too deep. The state has tried to fix some of this, like with the Everglades Restoration Project. It's a multi-billion-dollar effort to get the natural water flow back to what it was before we decided to turn half the Everglades into drive-through real estate. But the battle between development and conservation is far from over. Think of it like a tug-of-war between a construction crane and a manatee holding a protest sign. But there is hope. While the state government may be acting like climate change is just a rumor, which was started by coastal elites, local communities are actually doing something. Miami Beach is literally raising its streets to fight high tides. Some cities are putting limits on summer lawn watering, because maybe using gallons of fresh water to keep your St. Augustine grass green in 100-degree heat isn't the best idea. Others are offering rebates for solar panels, LED lighting, or energy-efficient appliances. In fact, despite the lack of a statewide mandate, Florida is now a leader in rooftop solar installations. It turns out when your electric bill looks like a car payment, installing a few panels starts to make a lot of sense, even if the state isn't exactly cheering you on. Still, environmental regulation across Florida is often, let's call it, relaxed. National climate action rankings don't have Florida high on the list. In fact, sometimes Florida's approach to environmental protection is like putting a Band-Aid on a gator bite. Symbolic at best. But here's the thing. People still love it. The sunshine, the beaches, the fishing, the kayaking. It's part of the Florida lifestyle. Sure, the coral reefs might be dying and the springs are shrinking, but hey, at least the sunsets are still free. So if you're moving to Florida and care about the planet, here's the honest truth. You'll need to dig into what your local community is doing because statewide, it's kind of like watching a house slowly sink into the sand while everyone inside is just arguing over the thermostat. Coming in at number 4 on our tour through the realities of life in Florida, taxes and cost of living, or as we like to call it, zero income tax. But your wallet still mysteriously loses weight. Let's start with the good news because there is some. Florida has no state income tax. That's right, none, zilch, nada. You could win the lottery, inherit a fortune, or become a professional gator wrestler with a 6-figure OnlyFans account, and the state won't take a dime of your income. That's one of the main reasons people flock here, especially retirees, digital nomads, and anyone allergic to April 15th. Corporate tax, just 5.5%. Sales tax, a flat 6%, with a few counties adding 1 to 2% just to keep things interesting. And guess what? No estate tax and no inheritance tax. Basically, Florida isn't coming for your paycheck or your heirs. It's like the state just wants you to relax, buy a boat and vote. Now the less good news. While you're skipping out on income tax, Florida's cost of living is still ready to snatch your wallet like a seagull going for your boardwalk hot dog. Housing is the biggest culprit. The median home price is around $387,000, which is about 7% higher than the national average. And that's just the average. Want to live somewhere with a view of the ocean, a golf course, or a Starbucks? Prepare to fork over $500,000 or more. Renters don't fare much better either. In Tampa, a local said a basic 1-bedroom in a decent neighborhood will run you $2,500 to $3,000 per month. That's not rent, that's ransom. As one Redditor warned that you should think it through unless you make $100,000, which, considering Florida's love affair with low-wage tourism jobs, rules out a lot of folks. And it doesn't stop at housing. Utilities? Prepare for your AC bill to double the moment summer hits. If you're not sweating, your electric bill probably is. Homeowners insurance? Florida is the national champion of high premiums averaging over $4,000 a year, thanks to that small detail called hurricane season. That's 3 times the U.S. average, because here, the weather doesn't just change. It tries to repossess your roof. Car insurance? High. Health insurance? Also high. Groceries? Depends where you shop, but public subs aren't going to pay for themselves. So while the tax perks are sweet, don't be fooled. Florida has a stealth tax system. It won't take your income directly, but it'll drain your bank account through the back door with housing, utilities, insurance, and all the little extras that come with living in paradise. And just to twist the knife, wages tend to stay low. One Redditor put it best. Every other aspect of life will go up, but I assure you your salary will not. So yes, you can enjoy more of your paycheck in theory, but in practice, you'll probably spend it patching your roof, running your AC 24/7, and paying your landlord $2,800 a month for a place where the roaches pay no rent but still act like they own the kitchen. Bottom line, Florida gives with one hand and gently robs you with the other while smiling under a palm tree. At number 3, it's time for a reality that splits Florida right down the middle. Literally, city versus rural lifestyle and cultural contrast, also known as one state, two worlds, and about 47 different driving styles. Let's start with a geography lesson you won't find in textbooks. Florida isn't one state, it's two and possibly three, masquerading as one long peninsula. North Florida, that's pretty much Alabama with better seafood. In places like Tallahassee or the Panhandle, you'll hear southern accents thicker than the humidity, see more pickup trucks than palm trees, and find churches on every corner, sometimes right next to a bait shop. One lifelong Floridian summed it up best. North Florida is southern. South Florida is something else entirely. And that something else? Oh, South Florida is like another country. More specifically, a vibrant international mashup of Cubans, Colombians, Northerners, snowbirds, sun chasers, and the occasional iguana falling out of a tree. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm are fast-paced, spicy, loud, and colorful. And we mean that in every possible sense. The energy is electric. The food has actual flavor. And if you don't speak at least some Spanish, you're going to feel like a tourist forever. Then there are the cities. Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, take your pick. They're fast, crowded, and growing like your uncle's belly at a barbecue. Traffic, miserable, rent, astronomical. But nightlife, unmatched. There's always something to do unless you're stuck on I-95 behind a retiree who thinks turn signals are just optional Christmas lights. But drive inland or up toward the northern stretches and the mood changes completely. Rural Florida is all about single-story homes, slow mornings, sweet tea, and the neighbor's rooster who doesn't care about your sleep schedule. It's peaceful, it's predictable, and it's proudly the opposite of Miami's non-stop energy drink lifestyle. Here's where things get complicated. Growth. Small towns once known for being charming and quiet are now turning into what one Florida Redditor called suburban hell, with roads jammed up with the worst car-brained people. Translation: more chain stores, more traffic lights, and a sudden realization that Publix now has a wait time. Cultural cost? Absolutely. Resort towns like Naples, Sarasota, or the Florida Keys are beautiful, but also full of tourists, winter escapees, and real estate prices that make locals scream into their $14 mojitos. Many longtime residents complain about getting priced out by out-of-staters, which is a polite way of saying New Yorkers with cash and no chill. Still, some prefer the rural trade-off, which is cheaper housing, fewer people, and a good chance your neighbor owns a goat. Others thrive in the urban chaos, soaking in the food, culture, and nightlife of Florida's vibrant cities, even if their rent is higher than their IQ score. And that's after college. Bottom line, moving to Florida is like choosing between a beach rave and a backyard barbecue. Both are fun, but you better know which one you're showing up for, or you'll end up wearing flip-flops to a tractor pull or worse, trying to salsa dance at a fish fry. So when someone says I'm moving to Florida, your next question should always be, yeah, but which Florida? At number 2, we step into one of Florida's most famous features and also one of its biggest plot twists, which is weather and climate differences, or as locals call it, why does the sky hate us between June and November? Let's begin with the marketing pitch. Florida is the Sunshine State. And it lives up to the name most of the time. You'll get over 200 sunny days a year, which is great if you love wearing sunglasses, hate snow, or need vitamin D because your soul still hasn't recovered from Michigan. Winters are glorious. South Florida in winter is what dreams and retirement brochures are made of. It rarely drops below 65 degrees in Miami, and snow is something you only see in old Christmas movies and the frozen food aisle. Even up in Tallahassee, winter is more like a chilly spring day elsewhere. This is why Florida is crawling with snowbirds every year. Folks who flee places like Minnesota the moment their windshield needs scraping. One Floridian with MS even said that 80-degree winters helped keep her out of a wheelchair. So yes, Florida's winter is not just comfortable, it's borderline therapeutic. Unless you enjoy shoveling snow, in which case, who hurt you? But before you pack your bags and buy a flamingo pool float, let's talk about summer. Because summer in Florida doesn't arrive, it ambushes you. Temperatures routinely soar into the 90s, and the humidity? Oh, the humidity. Think of it as walking through hot soup while a damp towel gently suffocates you. One Redditor summed it up beautifully. You'll be sweating before you even get to your car. And your car? It's now a convection oven with leather seats that double as a branding iron. Afternoons bring daily thunderstorms almost on schedule. Around 3 p.m., the sky gets dark. The thunder rolls in, and the heavens open up like they just found out you washed your car. Florida is actually the lightning capital of the U.S., with over 3,500 lightning strikes per day. That's not a typo. It's a Marvel villain's origin story. So yes, it's sunny, until it's suddenly not. And then the power goes out, your dog hides under the bed, and you're Googling how to unplug electronics mid-shower. But if you thought daily lightning was wild, just wait for hurricane season, which runs from June 1st to November 30th, because half a year just wasn't enough chaos. Since 1851, Florida has been hit by more tropical cyclones than any other state. That's nearly 500 named storms, hurricanes, and maybe this one won't hit us. Oops, never mind. Even a mild tropical storm can flood roads, cancel school, and turn the grocery store into a Black Friday battle royale over bottled water. Every Floridian has an evacuation plan, an emergency kit, and at least one story about a neighbor who refused to evacuate because they survived Andrew just fine, and then promptly lost their boat, their shed, and part of their fence. But hey, no blizzards, right? In short, Florida weather is kind of like a relationship with a drama-loving ex. Beautiful, exciting, and warm most of the time, but when things go bad, they go very bad. Very fast, and there's probably lightning involved. So yes, the sunshine is real, but so is the sweating, the storm prepping, and the moment every summer when you wonder if it's too late to move to Maine. And finally, at number 1, we arrive at the golden crown jewel of Florida's appeal, its version of look but don't touch. Natural beauty and outdoor recreation. Yes, when Florida's not trying to roast you, soak you, or fling tree branches at your house, it's actually a paradise. Let's start with the obvious. Florida has more coastline than your uncle has fishing stories. With 1,197 miles of shoreline, you're never too far from a beach, a palm tree, or a tourist applying sunscreen with the desperation of someone who just learned the sun exists. Around 825 miles of those beaches are public, which means even if you can't afford oceanfront property, you can still park your folding chair somewhere between the retirees and the Seagull Mafia. But beaches are just the beginning. Florida has over 15 million acres of public land, and no, that's not a typo. That includes 175 state parks, 38 state forests, and 12 national parks and preserves, which is more than enough room for every influencer to get their perfect swamp selfie. The Everglades alone covers 1.5 million acres, and it's the only place in the world where you might spot a panther, an alligator, and someone in flip-flops kayaking past both. And speaking of kayaking, Florida is a paddler's paradise. The state boasts over 5,000 miles of water trails, so if you ever get tired of traffic, you can just commute via kayak, assuming you're okay with the occasional gator photobomb. There are 10,000 miles of biking and hiking trails too, but let's be real, it's flat, it's hot, and unless you enjoy sweating through your backpack, you'll be back on the water soon. Freshwater springs? Oh, Florida has more than 727 of those are first magnitude, which is a fancy way of saying they're gushing like your aunt at a baby shower. These springs are crystal clear, year-round cool, and great for swimming, diving, or questioning your life choices when you realize you've been floating next to a fish the entire time. And let's not forget the wildlife. Florida is one of the best places in the country to see manatees, sea turtles, herons, tropical fish, and yes, alligators, so many alligators. It's not unusual for locals to post pictures of gators sunbathing in golf courses like they just retired early. But not all of nature is friendly. Summer means mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds, biting flies, and the occasional red tide that turns your beach vacation into a coughing contest. Florida nature is beautiful, yes, but it also carries a small risk of being stung, bitten, or photobombed by a lizard doing push-ups. Still, one of the best parts of Florida's outdoor lifestyle is that you can do it all year long. Want to go snorkeling in January? Go for it. Hike a palm hammock in February? Sure. Golf in March while the rest of the country is chiseling ice off their windshield? Absolutely. One Florida transplant said the warm winter temps and year-round pool workouts helped improve her multiple sclerosis. She called moving to Florida the best thing I've done, and not just because she got to throw out her snow shovel. So yes, Florida might test your patience with bugs, humidity, and the occasional hurricane. But when it comes to natural beauty, year-round outdoor fun, and enough coastline to get lost on purpose, it absolutely delivers. Just remember, the beaches are free, the springs are clear, and the gators were here before you.